It's going to count down, right? Oh, here we go.
There we go. Countdown 0, go.
Countdown 0, go. Well, we've had, lots of cups of coffee here. But we probably need a vat more to cover the topic that we tried to cover in an hour.
I think we opened Pandora's box, Latney. Like we said, we wanted to cover tech stack today. And I've got, like I mentioned earlier, like I put a little star next to topics that could be like breakout. I got like 8 separate topics that could easily be an hour with this group.
It could be a whole season.
We'll do a whole, well, we joked about doing the Coffee Talks, retreat. And now we clearly have to do it in Bali so we can do it at Michael Franti's yoga hotel. So we got content for days, but we covered a lot of ground. It was a pretty diverse conversation, and I'd love to hear what some of your highlights were, because for me there were a lot.
Well, I thought that we did a good job covering kind of the basic of buying and adopting tech before we just talked about tech in general, because it's easy to get carried away and go on a buying spree, which we've all done. So thinking about people, process, and technology, I think specifically talking a lot about the type of people that we need to actually implement and use all of the tech. Yeah. And so it's not shelfware. Yeah. So I thought that was a really, just good to bring up. I liked the notion of doing a tech audit. And, looking for things that are redundant, things that you can consolidate. But then I also, it's interesting. I think the old way of buying tech is you would do a whole business process map and go out and try to find requirements and source technology to meet your pain. I think that what's happening with so many innovative technologies coming on the scene is technology is a catalyst for change. And so like some of the things Kevin talked about and Adam talked about, like just being willing to always tinker, try, be kind of always scouring for what's new and could potentially change your game.
And I was impressed. I mean, this is a room of like CMOs. These are people that are many times leading big organizations and big companies, but they still have their hands in the tech. They're still, staying conversant in how the tools work and sort of making sure they know how to tinker as well directly. I thought that, really good discussion around the skill sets required to be good at marketing technology today, including what attributes people are looking for new hires. A little bit of a discussion around continued education, although I think that could easily be a whole nother topic we cover. Certainly a difference between having technical competency on products and knowing how to leverage them strategically. Some people, are the, what do you call them, the purple squirrels, where they can do a little bit of all of the above. But I think to make sure you've got coverage from a strategy and an implementation standpoint important. And also the integration piece kept coming up again and again. Like these
data and integration.
Yeah.
Data and integration.
Well, and I think integration has to include that data. If it doesn't, you're still just operating in silos. And it's not just the marketing tech stack. It's what is your sales team using? What is your customer success team using? If you're not able to have a complete data story across those tools, you're missing out. And I think what I heard from some of the people, not only in the conversation, but in the chat, people seem to imply that they'd rather have less tech with more integration so they can get more leverage out of the tools that they have.
Yes. Yeah. And that being a requirement, like, hey, I'm not going to buy you if you don't leverage my data model, if you can't integrate into my existing tech stack. I thought Adam did a good job of talking about how if everyone's, for example, providing and de-anonymizing data, then all of a sudden it's a hot mess. And so just standardizing on something there is an example of that.
Yeah, I was, I continue to be so impressed by the openness of people in these meetings, just sharing what they're doing, sharing what's not working, just being honestly a little bit vulnerable. It's one of the reasons why we don't record them, right? We will take resources and put them up on the Content Hub. We'll do these summaries so more people can get a sense of what's going on. But you really do have to be there. If you're a marketing leader, if you're a CMO, and you're not yet in these groups, you really need to join. You really got to get in there because the conversations and the vulnerability you get insights you wouldn't get from these. And I think also just because we're all human, we're not machines, we're all trying to figure this out as we go. It's really, really powerful to see, dozens, if not hundreds of your peers that are feeling the same way, that are, especially this year. What was the joke? You sort of find whatever quote you want and just add in a time of COVID at the end of it. But this year has not been easy. In fact, there was a Gartner study that just came out this week on sort of CMO spending habits, and it said that 26% of non-headcount budgets are being spent on technology, and that's actually flat from last year and down from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they said it was 29%. And I wonder if they would do the survey again now, if they would see it creep back up, because we're seeing such a shift to digital solutions, such a shift away from field and events, at least for the time being. But I think some of that's going to stick.
Well, and also Adam talked too about the need to do more with less. Mm-hmm. And so if you're trying to keep your headcount to program spend in check, that means you've got to, you can't have 10 people doing something that you could automate or maybe use AI to be able to do. Right. So I thought I love that you posted on LinkedIn. So hopefully we'll get a lot of good data back on what people are spending and what it is looking like, because the Gartner stat is just one data point.
Yeah, well, and I don't know when they did that survey, but I think it's probably out of date. I mean, it's interesting to see how many surveys were done, like even the beginning of, Q1. It's just like,
remember ours? We did one.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, some of these, look, this, we should probably think about redoing that like into this fall and into people planning for 2021 to see. I think some of those changes we looked at, this is accelerating it. The dirty little secret we heard on the call today is, people's interest in getting better about intent data, getting better at integrations, getting better at attribution. In both of our calls today, there was a legit discussion of whether marketing automation is still required. Like, if these are glorified emailing tools with some lead scoring, are there other platforms that now become more important to marketers, especially B2B marketers, especially those that are selling into enterprise, right? Where it's not a quantity game as much as it's a targeting the right people game. I think we're going to see, continued innovation and some people really just sort of making those exponential changes that are going to teach us all a lot.
I'm so, I'm bullish on that. And that's the mission I'm on. Because I think there can be a real renaissance. We've sort of been saddled with, frankly, technology that's pretty old. It was built in the 90s for a lead-based linear journey. So maybe it's time. Giddy up.
It's time. Well, it was another really good week. I know we continue to get more and more people joining us. If you're watching this video and you're not in the group yet, put in a comment, tag Latin Ear Eye. We'll get you an invite to the group. I've noticed there's people that aren't able to come every week, but are pretty religious about catching up with the email that goes out midweek. We've got a ton of resources up on the Coffee Talks Content Hub, summaries from things that were discussed in the meeting, some examples of templates and tools and handbooks that people use. Big discussion this morning around attribution, and one member actually had a grid that she put together of the vendors in the attribution space and how she evaluated them. So make sure you get access to those by signing up for the Coffee Talks, getting on the hub. And Latin, we have weeks and weeks of content to continue this train going.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.